Alright, it's your boy No Tail Ninja back at it again with another review, and we have a crazy kind of endgame-esque chapter going on right here, as all the heroes who are capable of fighting finally show up to the battlefield, and All For One is going just ham, going full force with all his abilities. Though I'm not really sure how much stronger than Shigaraki he is, or what he's really capable of, we do get to see a little bit of those powers displayed. And we do see a return of some heroes that we haven't seen in a while, and some heroes that I thought were down and out for the battle, but apparently can still keep fighting. But before I get into it, you guys know the deal. Make sure to like and subscribe, because I'm trying to grow this channel as much as I can, and every little bit helps me out. But enough of my rambling, let's get into talking about today's chapter. So we open with the chapter with all the remaining students who were injured but not severely injured from the last few chapters. And we see the likes of Ashido, Koji, Kirishima, Kaminari, and Momo, and a couple others, which let's not talk about this one. And they're basically all saying that they couldn't have just sat by and watched Deku fight. They're here to help him out as much as they can. And the next page we're greeted to an amazing spread of "We are here," as all of them, this is just completely reminiscent of Endgame. This is like a shot-for-shot remake of Endgame, as all of the heroes are coming out of the Kurogiri portals and coming to assist Deku in this final fight. And though some of them are severely injured, they're willing to fight tooth and nail to end this battle, as All For One is looking upon all of them. And weirdly enough, he doesn't really seem that he's worried or cocky as always, he just seems absolutely empty. As he goes on to say, "So many soon-to-be corpses." And he explains what happens in the Vestige world, as he mentions that as part of Tomura, I was supposed to vanish alongside of him. When I heard the sound of Yuichi shattering, my whole world turned to gray, which is just more proof that he actually loves Yuichi. I know everyone tries to make the argument that he just sees him as a toy, but nah, he definitely loves his brother and cares deeply for his brother. He just doesn't want to say it and admit it to himself. Anyway, my attachment was severed, and then no attack since has been able to get through this void of pure loss. And that's how I was able to void certain defeat. Now I get it. Izuku Midoriya. Tragedies are what make people stronger. Don't you agree? As he becomes this nasty Akira-like monster of all his quirks combined. But Zero seemingly disagrees with this sentiment, as he chimes in saying, "I don't think so. My life is not full of ups and downs like you guys. What motivates me on a daily basis is just the wish to not be left behind in terms of skill. Besides, that one guy had it rough, and some time ago he looked like an addict." Which I'm not really sure he's talking about here, I'm assuming he means Shigaraki. But just as he says that line, two unexpected people pull out of the Kurogiri portals, and it is Shoto and Endeavor coming in with two massive flash fire fists, as Zero continues to say, "That's why I'd prefer if those sad things just cease to exist." Which I know is a hard line, but like coming from Zero of all people, who's like barely shown up in the series and barely had any dialogue, it falls a little flat, but it's still cool. But anyway, Endeavor and Shoto hit All For One with a massive flash fire fist, as we cut back to seeing what actually happened with them and the whole Dabi situation. Now, we don't actually get to know the full status of what happened to Dabi, but we get to figure out why Endeavor is actually here. Because Recovery Girl's been helping so many people, she's not really sure she's going to be able to help Endeavor and Shoto. And while they're still there, Rei can't really withstand the heat from their bodies for too long, so it's best that they either get on the battlefield or just go home for right now. So they decided to join the battle, but seemingly their bodies are still damaged, because after they launch their two big flash fire fists, Zero has to pull them away from the battlefield so they don't sustain any more damage, seeing as they're overheated as is. As President Mike appears from one of the Kurogiri portals saying, "Thank you, everyone who's capable of fighting is already here." As he said, "Today's the big day, guys. Let's go, this is our final mission," as he screams it from the heavens, which I don't know if his quirk is activating here, because I don't really know if he has to like activate it or if him talking loud activates it, because he's yelling all the time. As All For One, who seemingly took no damage from being hit by two flash fire fists, continues to form this nasty flesh amalgamation of his quirks. And again, he seems very unimpressed because he says, "So many wounded heroes, and I feel nothing. That's sad, honestly. Without All Might, you're nothing but scraps to me." But as he begins to launch his attack, he feels something pulling towards him, and it's actually 13 using her black hole capabilities, as Gang Orca and everyone else comes in to help as much as they can. But All For One is seemingly still too fast, because it takes a dozen heroes just to deal with one of his attacks. As the student from Class 1B, whose name is slipping my mind right now, he says we have to stay together and work as one. As Deku tries to join the fight, but he's still being rewounded, so he's not at his full potential. As Aizawa goes on to tell him that you got rewinded a few minutes back, right to the point before you lost your arms, so all that damage you accumulated throughout the battle is still there. And he says, "How long have you been at it now?" As Deku just goes on to tell him that he's threw away All For One, which leaves Aizawa shocked, because I'm assuming he bet everything on this, that Deku would have been able to have his quirk to finish off the battle. So Aizawa goes on to exclaim, "So you don't have any of it?" As Deku says yes, he also doesn't have any of the quirks of the previous users. But though he didn't have it for such a long time, One for All is still ingrained within him, as he thinks of all the achievements that All Might was able to accomplish as being a quirkless user like him. As he says, "My embers have still not gone out, and with those embers, All for One will." As Aizawa cuts him off and actually hands him a bunch of supplies he needs, like bandages and something to cool his body down while his body's still being rewinded. And with that, he gives him the shirt from the refugee center that we've seen that kid from several chapters have on. And Deku, still being a really big All Might fan, recognizes that this is a limited edition shirt with only 5 in existence, but before he could really grasp the rarity of what he has on right now, Aoyama comes in and tells him that, "You need our power as much as we need yours, so take my hand." As Deku grabs his hand, as we see that people from all over are cheering for him to do his best, as we see the people from the refugee shelter, the kid that's a giant Endeavor fan whose name's slipping my mind right now, and even Gran Torino, who we have not seen in a long time. As Deku launches forward, as we see a beautiful running shot of him saying, "Do your best," the boy runs, as the chapter comes to an end. So all in all, a very solid chapter. If I was to give this a rating, as I always do, I'd probably still put this at about a 7. It's pretty good, but again, it's just like a quick informational dump for the most part, but still a lot of interesting things happening, and it's kind of seems like we're going into the final battle now, which it does kind of make sense, but it makes me ponder on, is Horikoshi going to remember a certain thing about Deku that I think he might have forgotten, that Deku's body's still not capable of using 100% of his power. Like, I know when he was fighting Shigaraki, he was using 100%, but he was also using the Black Whip tendrils in his body to reinforce his skeleton so that it didn't sustain a lot of damage. And I wonder if that's going to play a factor into the battle, or if that's just going to go completely out the window. Because Deku's power scaling has been like pretty inconsistent this whole war arc. Like, one point they'll say it's a certain level, another point they'll say it's another level. And that's something that's always kind of confused me. But I am glad to see a lot of returning characters, especially Endeavor and Shoto. I thought they were completely down and out, and we were going to see them again. But man, it would have been great if they had Tokoyami for this battle. Tokoyami would have been the complete game changer, but he seemed like he was pretty badly injured, so I don't think he's good enough to fight going forward. And while Deku's technically still missing his arms, I wonder if he'll actually use shoot style while during this battle, because that's another thing that Horikoshi kind of set up that I feel like is kind of forgotten about. But I was been waiting for the correct moment for when they'll actually utilize it or use it, but I don't really see that. But it's also kind of hard to tell how well these heroes will do, because with the power of teamwork, especially going up against someone like All for One, which they've not really done like a team battle before, I think they could fare a lot better, but a lot of these people are very injured, and even with all of them together, they're still having a hard time like keeping up with All for One's abilities, and he also still has the ability to rewind. So I'm very curious as to how they're going to handle this situation. And seeing this is going into the final battle, and I think maybe we're going to have like, I think at max 10 more chapters left before this is finally over. I hope that we do get to see Yoichi again, because I feel like his story wasn't really wrapped up in the vestiges. Sacrifice would have been for nothing if they didn't end up saving Shigaraki, because what would that whole thing have been for? Their whole reason for sacrificing himself was to save Shigaraki. So if Deku ends up killing All for One, what was the point of all that? Shigaraki died anyway, and they lost the quirks. So I don't know, maybe it's like, it's a bit realistic because actions have consequences, but it's still a little cheesy because it felt like the narrative structure was revolving around that the whole time. But all in all, those are just my complaints. I always have complaints, I know, but I do still appreciate the chapter, and I still do appreciate the series, and I look forward to like seeing it end and like doing a full wrap up on everything I thought, the highs and lows. But for right now, that's all I really have to say about this. So you guys stay safe, my ninjas, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. Also, thank you for all the subscribers lately. I'm close to hitting that 500, so keep trugging, all right? Appreciate y'all. Now stay safe, and I'll see you later.